Shalom everyone and Chodesh Tov, happy new month of Pisces. The new month of Pisces, starting after the new moon, is the last month of the astrological year and also the biblical, the Torah year. It is the 12th month. And immediately after, we have the first month, which is Aries. So, being the last month, it has a deep meaning. It means that this is like the completion. Now, completion could be one of two. When the last year was very successful and very full of hard work and achievements, a completion means that's a victory. But if the year was not that full of achievement, so completion means it's not so much a celebrity, so that has an effect on many, but so the month of this month can be full of joy, full of happiness, when it says, Mishanichnas Adar Marbin Basimcha, when the month of Adar is entering, it's time to be happy, to rejoice, and to celebrate. And on the other way, it could be heavy, very heavy month, and it's a month with this kind of dichotomy, these opposites, and we'll see why. And we know every month has a positive side, a negative side, the more enlightened side and the darker side, and it's always, we have to remember, it's always for us to choose. That's basically the definition of human life, which is all about free will. So let's just try to understand today the meanings of this month, which is also, it has this month of Pisces this year, 5783, is also very significant because of other things, not just because of Pisces, and we are going to talk about it. I explained it already before, but humanity as a whole, when we go through that transformation between the month of the month of Pisces and month of Aries, it's not this time 5783 or 2023. It's not just the end of one astrological cycle and the beginning of a new astrological cycle, a new zodiac. It is the beginning of a new cycle for the whole of humanity, and which means the next few years we are going to witness so much change in human society that the way we see society today, it's going to be like we're going to go backwards, looking backwards saying, wow, that is not there anymore. Okay, so how is that all connected? We'll explain, and first of all, explaining from the point of view of the book of formation, that explains and teaches us that the whole structure of the universe is all logic. It's all based on a few cycles, and those cycles, because they move in different ways, they create a lot of variabilities in our world. But if you look in the different variants of zodiac signs, types of people, types of days of the year, types of hours of the day, you will see the same patterns repeat. However, there will be a lot of permutations of the different cycles, and that what is going to create the great variability of humanity. You can't find two people as our sages are saying 2,000 years ago, the same way you can't find two people looking the same, you can't find two people thinking the same. Why? We are built differently. We're structured differently. Oh, we're built from the same materials. We are all built from electrons, protons, and neutrons. However, the composition is different between one person to another. And that's what makes us look differently, think differently, behave differently, react differently, love different things, hate other things, have different victories or different defeats. All of it is because each one of us has this special variability that makes us special, different, like a different angle of the creation. That angle is needed. As we learn, you look at a tree of life. One of the meanings of the word tree of life, you look at the tree standing in the fall, and you see the branching of all its branches. And you look at the delta of a great river, and you see how similar it is. You look at the map of the small arteries in our bodies, in our tissues. You see very similar formations. So that's what Sefer Yetzirah is saying. We have basically few variants, but the composition of these variants make them coincide with each other, creating such a beauty of differentiations. And that's what creates a beautiful universe. So when we look at those cycles, we have one big cycle. That's the cycle of the 4 seasons of the year: the spring, summer, fall, and winter. Okay? Now, they belong to a cycle that has 4 parts, like most of the other cycles. Okay, 4 parts according to the ancient division of the 4 elements: fire, water, air, and earth. And therefore, the dominant element in the spring will be fire, and therefore, the first sign of the spring is fire. The dominant element of the summer will be water, and you see that the first sign of the summer is Cancer, which is a water sign. The dominant element of the fall, that's the air, and therefore Libra, the first sign of the fall, will be an air sign. And the dominant element of the winter is the earth, and therefore the first sign of the winter is an earth sign, Capricorn. In our case, so we understand, as we spoke about in previous months, that because the earth is the dominant element in the winter, and earth is the desire to receive stability, looking for stability, the need for stability, the need for control, you will see that all 3 signs of the winter, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, have deeply inside very common ground, very common element. It is the need for stability, the need for control, the need for independence, and the need to have the desire, which means need, just the word need. So Capricorn has a very strong need. Aquarius, Pisces, they're very, very hungry. It's like earth, like the soil after a long, long dry summer, and now the soil is waiting for the water to water the soil and fill it up. Meanwhile, it is dry and waiting with hunger. And this is basically one of the main traits of Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. All three have a very strong hunger, very strong drive. Each one of them reveals that drive differently. Okay, so what do we see about Pisces? Pisces is the third sign of the winter. The third sign means this is the central column. Central column can be compared to air. And therefore, you see with Pisces, very strong need to know, knowledge, to think, very very deep support to any kind of philosophies, psychology, very, very deep thinking. You see it with Pisces. And also super, super sensitive for any imbalance. Super sensitive to any imbalance. And that adds up because other elements in the structure, the makeup of Pisces, support the same thing. It is a water sign, which means a water sign means also very, very sensitive, very, very emotional. It adds the emotional part. However, the neediness with the air, which means the ongoing thinking, rationalizing, it's like it is creating a very interesting dance between the mind and the heart, and also the whole thing about looking for balance, searching for balance, trying to explain balance, trying to learn about the secret of balance. Moses was a Pisces. He was born on the 7th of Adar, and Moses is bringing us the most balancing tool in the universe, which is the wisdom of the Torah that he brings from Mount Sinai. So here it is. You see, like Moses, Pisces, they have the tendency to care, to take care, to be caretakers, which means social workers, psychologists, psychotherapists, people that are there to help other people to balance because they need to see that balance. So you can see a lot of empathy and sensitivity among Pisces. And when Pisces are at their best, they could be an amazing healers because the sensitivity is so high, even like being psychic, which means so sensitive so they can be there for someone else before that someone else knows he needs help. Okay? So that, and what kind of help does he need? So that's a sensitivity of Pisces. That sensitivity of Pisces is also, could be, you know, every sign has two sides. The supersensitivity can turn around to become vulnerability. So deep, so they become so weak, so vulnerable. Instead of being victorious, they can become like Moses, victorious over the darkness around in their mission to help, to support, to heal, to care, to raise, to simply balance. On the other hand, if they don't do the job, they can become terrible victims, and they can become more than just victims, professional victims. Ongoingly, like the victimization can become their religion, that they worship all the time. I was hurt, I'm suffering, I'm miserable, I'm upset, I'm vulnerable, and so on. And that you can see the other side of Pisces. So you see some Pisces, you know, it's the word Pisces in Hebrew, dagim, fish. You have orcas, you have dolphins, you have sharks, and you have the rest of the fish. They're hiding in the bottom. and and they don't want to be eaten by anyone. Okay, so you have to decide, being a Pisces, what kind of fish do you want to be? Not all the fish in the sea, in the ocean, are exactly the same. But basically, I think we got a little bit about the simplistic mathematical structure of the Pisces. As we said, the letter Hay, the earth of the winter, and being the last sign of the year, makes them like being that the end of the production line. That can many times become a way of solitude, being passive, being in the last. Why the last ones are always the last ones? Okay? Always being left behind and stuff like this. So that is, again, about basically the beginning, the introduction for why Pisces are the way they are. There are many layers to be built upon that, but that's in the simplistic way. That's something that we need to take care of or to understand about. If we are Pisces, we have Pisces rising, we have a sun in Pisces, or let's say we are born in the Hebrew sign of Pisces, but the Hebrew sign of Pisces in the Hebrew month of Adar. However, the solar birthday could be Aquarius or Aries. Still, the Pisces will usually be more dominant. Okay, what else do we have about Pisces that we want to discuss? You can see in the Youdkevitch, the Tetragrammatum permutation of this month, Hey, Hey, Yud, and Vav. Okay. You can already see the passivity because you have it's beginning with 2 times the letter Hey. The letter Hey is the more feminine aspect of the Tetragrammaton. The Yud and the Vav are the more masculine. So when the 2 Heys come together in the beginning, it means a lot of passivity, a lot of kind of sitting there and being a victim. That's a very, very dangerous aspect that easily people of the sign of Pisces can fall into. Okay, so now that's the permutation. We know that 12 different permutations of the Tetragrammaton. This is the one for Pisces. We also learn that there are 2 letters, according to the Book of Formation, that represent the forces, the DNA behind Pisces. We see for the sign of Pisces, we have the letter Kuf, and for Jupiter, the ruling planet of Pisces, we have the letter Gimel. We can see the letter Gimel also in the name of the sign. The Hebrew name is again Dagim, fish, simply fish. Pisces is not English. It's probably it's coming from Latin, and my Latin is not that great. Okay, but you can find conjugations of that word in languages that are originating from Latin. Okay, but in Hebrew the word is very simple. Fish are fish, dagim. Okay, but the Zohar is something very important to teach us about that word. The word dag, fish, is made of 2 Hebrew letters, Dalit and Gimel. Okay? These 2 letters could be have a very strong message. Why? Because the letter Dalet is in Gematria. It's the number. We know every letter in Hebrew is also a number. So Dalet is 4. Gimel is 3. Together, 3 plus 4 give you 7. It's a lucky number. It's a positive number. Okay? Is it always positive? The Zohar says, depends. Why? When the Zohar speaks about the power of the Hebrew letters and the meaning of those Hebrew letters, the biggest article about it can be found in the introduction to the Zohar. It's the article about the Hebrew letters by Rabbi Himnuna Saba, Himnuna the elder. And over there, when he speaks about Gimel and Dalit are in the Hebrew alphabet, they follow each other. You have Aleph is the first letter, Bet is the second letter. You can see that the order names, they survived in Greek. Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta. Those words have no meaning in Greek. They have meaning only in Hebrew. Alpha is from Aleph. Beta is Bet. Bet in Hebrew means a house. Aleph means the leader of the flock. Okay? That's why it's the first letter. Bet is a house. Gimel, okay, comes the letter Gimel, Gamma, and then Dalet, Delta. Delta in Hebrew means a door. That's why the letter D looks like a door. Okay? So, and B looks like a house. And Aleph, A looks like a head, but it was turned around. Like the two legs of the A, the letter A used to be the horns of the ox. Okay, but then they changed the letter A. Now, so the Zohar speaks about these two letters, Gimel and Dalet, and the relationships between them. Why? Because the letter Gimel, look at the letter Gimel, you see it on the top, above Jupiter. The letter Gimel is made, the way the scribe writes the letter Gimel in a Torah on the parchment, he writes a Vav, okay, the letter Vav, and he sticks a letter Yud to the bottom of that Vav. So what you see, let us draw it. Okay, you can see here, this is the letter Vav. It's a little bit tilted. Vav usually is straight. Here, this is how a original Vav looks like, but it's not very much different. So again, this is the letter Vav, and here you have the letter Yud sticking to it. Why is that important? Because the Vav is the conduit of energy, of light, and the Yud symbolize the core energy. Yud is the number 10. This is the 10 Sefirot, the seed of the 10 Sefirot. So Gimel, the word Gimel, the letter Gimel, the name Gimel, says the Zohar, comes from Gomel, the one who shares, the one who rewards. Okay? So the Gimel is the epitome of the force that brings to the world bliss. And therefore, because the letter Gimel is the letter that, according to the Book of Formation, created that power that we know, we call it Jupiter, or in Hebrew, Tzedek, okay? The letter Gimel is so blissful, and therefore whoever knows a little bit of astrology knows that the planet Jupiter symbolizes, in the chart of a person, symbolize the bliss, the good fortune, success, everything that is good. It's all about pleasure and bliss. Okay, that's the letter Gimel. Okay, so you have in the word dagim, dag, fish, you have the letter Gimel. But you have also the letter Dalit. Dalit, it's coming from the word door, but the word Dalit, door, Dalit, is also It's an empty opening in the wall, which means it shows about emptiness. So in Hebrew, Dalit means also Dalut, which is poverty. The letter Dalet represents poverty. Okay? So if you see, we can see the letter Dalet over here. You look at the haze. The letter Hay is made from a Dalet and so here you can see the letter Dalet, and also you have the letter Hey inside, the letter Yud inside. So when you have Dalet that is fulfilled with the Yud, that's a holy letter Hey. The female, the Shekhinah, the presence of the creation, and so on and so forth. But if the Yud is not there, then you see that the Dalet becomes kind of empty, vacant, poverty. It's also meaning need. Okay? So now that we understood the difference between Gimel, bliss and pleasure, and Dalet, which is poverty and need and desire, now the Zohar says like this: in the order of the alphabet, the Hebrew alphabet, it's Gimel Dalet. Gimel Dalet, it's the two letters of the word dag, fish. But when they come as Gimel Dalet is Gomel Dalim, which means rewarding the poor. In that case, you have Gimel Dalet, the word Gad. Gad, like the tribe God. God is the word, the meaning of the word in Hebrew is good fortune. Because Gimel Dalet, you have the alliance between the light of the Creator, His love, sharing, caring, rewarding, being flowing into the vessel, us, Dalet, that we are poor, we have nothing of our own. When it comes this way, Gomel Dalim, we can see good fortune and we can see the blossoming of everything that is good. However, warns the Zohar, if the order changes, and it's not Gimel Dalet, it's a Dalet Gimel. Dalet Gimel, which means the Dalet stands in front of the Gimel. That is, instead of Gomel Dalim, rewarding, feeding the poor, it becomes Dal Ge'eh, the poor one who is proud. Okay? And what pride gives you? When somebody is proud, in Hebrew, pride and a tide, you know, the high tide in the ocean, it's the same word. Ge'eh means there's a tide of, you're full of yourself. And what does it mean? That when you're full of yourself, there's no space for the light of the Creator to flow into you. No bliss, no good fortune, no fulfillment. Okay? No pleasure. So when it's Dalet Gimel, it's Dal Ge'eh. It's the poor one who is so full of himself that he puts himself before the light of the Creator. I don't need the Creator. I can do it on my own. You can see those two options in the Pisces. The sign of Pisces, you can see those people that have real emunah, real drive to connect to God's light, real humility. They have it, humility. Most Pisces are very humble, and by being humble, knowing that the only thing that fulfills you really is God's light. Okay? When you understand that, and you can be the true believer, the true faithful person that has the wisdom of faith and the wisdom knowing I'm here, I exist to be a vessel, the last sign of the 12 signs, to be the vessel for God's bliss. Without God's bliss, I'm nothing. Okay? That was Moses. He had nothing of himself. He has such a humility that it says Moses God says, the most humble person on earth. Reaching such a place of humility is allowing you to be the vessel of the greatest light of pleasure and bliss. This is Gomel Dalim. However, when a person, as we said before, is so busy in his religion of being a victim, being hurt, he's so proud about it. He's so full of himself about it. He's so full of himself of hating everybody, being angry about everybody because he was abused, he was stepped on, he was forgotten, he was neglected, whatever. And a lot of Pisces experience such things in their lives. And they're very sensitive and they get hurt very easily. And therefore a lot of Pisces people, they hide like fish. The moment they see discomfort, they jump into the ocean and they just simply dive as deep as possible, hiding behind the rock. I'm not here. I'm not here. They can't cope. They can't cope because they see themselves as the eternal victims. But, as I said, the Zohar warns it becomes pride. You're proud about your being a victim. You're proud about you being humble, about being poor. And you can see it. You can see it, and that aligns with the letter Kuf. You see the letter Kuf is the letter for the sign of Pisces. How does that goes with the letter Kuf? Okay, so let me read a little bit about it. I'm reading from the Bnei Sachar, Rabbi Tzvi Sachar of Dinov, 19th century in Eastern Europe. And he simply took all the sources in Jewish writings for anything about astrology, put it together in his eternal book, Bnei Issachar. Okay, and he says as follows. In the book of Formation, Sefer Yetzirah, Himlich Ot Kuf Bischok. God created the letter Kuf with laughter. Okay, and create Vetzar bo Dagim Ba'olam. And he created the sign of Pisces in the world, Dagim. Ve'adar b'shana, in the month of Adar, which is the Hebrew name of that month. Utchol b'nefesh zachar u'nekeva, and the spleen in the physical body. And we know spleen is connected in some spiritual teachings to laughter. Okay, now, הנה אות ה' בו צר היוצר בראשית חודש ניסן. והנה כל האותיות שבאלף ב' הם גולם אחד, חוץ אות ה' ואות ק', שהם בחודשי אדר ניסן. הם חודשי הניסים נסתרים וגלויים. And he says, the only two letters that are in the Hebrew alphabet that are made of two different characters. Okay? You look at all the letters, they're one shape. Except from two letters. The letter Kuf, that is made of something like a Kaf and a Vav. Okay? And the letter Hey, that is made from the Dalit and the Yud. All the others, it's one body. It's not made of two different letters that are disconnected. Or you can find, let's say this is the letter Shin. You look at the Shin, you see it can be, you can see like, if you really have a good imagination, you can see three Vav. Okay? And that's how you write the Shin. It's like one of the meditations, it's made of 3 Vav. Okay? However, they are connected to one. All the other letters are connected to one. There are 2 letters not connected as one. They're made of 2 characters put together. Okay? The letter Kuf for Pisces, the letter Hey for Aries. What's common? Both are months of miracles. Aries is the month of the Exodus, so the culmination of all 10 plagues, the Exodus, and the splitting of the Red Sea, the appearing of the manna from the heavens, and the water coming from the rock, it's all here in the month of Aries. So we have this as a month of heavenly visible miracles. That's the letter Hey. It's like the presence of God in this physical world that everybody can see. The letter Kuf is tricky. If you notice, there's also another exception. It's the only letter in the Hebrew alphabet, except from the final letters, that goes under the line. If you look at the Hebrew line in the bottom, okay, so you see the letter Kuf, the first letter. The letter Kuf is the only one that goes under the line. The only others that go under the line are final letters, like the final Kaf. But from the original 12 Hebrew letters, the only one that goes under the line, and that means Raglea Yordot Mavet. Her feet go down to the death. Under the top line, under the line of the letters, you have death. So what's the special thing about Kuf? Another thing, in ancient Hebrew, you know what, we'll leave it, but the word Kuf means, one of the meanings is a monkey. And what monkeys are good at? Imitation. To imitate the holiness. We know one thing, Pisces people, most of them are very good in imitating other people's behavior and special voices, talking. Okay? Very good actors. You know, one of the biggest symbols of Pisces is the clown that behind the happy masquerade, there is a very sad face. Okay? Hiding. That's why a lot of Pisces are good in imitation and also in acting, because that's how they hide their real selves, because they're very, very, very sensitive to privacy, to infringing of their privacy. Very, very much, as we said before, that's why they're always hiding somewhere deep in the ocean, behind the rock, under the rock. Why? And, you know, in many cases, that could be also a very good trait, because the saying, whatever is hidden from the eye, bliss can dwell upon it. And because of that, Pisces are very secretive. Yeah, usually they won't tell you what they're doing. You always, when you live with a Pisces next to you, you have no idea what's going on. And also, it's the only sign that they say about them. You look them in the eyes and you have no idea what is that they're feeling. Everything is hidden, no access whatsoever to what's inside. Okay? So again, so what are we talking about? So we're talking about, as we said before, you can have people which, not only Pisces people, but the type is Pisces. What does it mean? Having this costume of a very, very humble religious person, while it is only a costume. I'll give you a story I remember I heard it when I was a little boy, and it made a very big impression on me. I could never forget it. That's a fact, till today. And the story is about this businessman who's a very, very, very honest, hardworking person, and on his deathbed, he's giving his last word to his son, and he's saying to his son, you know, you're going to inherit all my possessions and so on. I want to give you one very important advice. I advise you to be really, really careful about people that are too humble, too religious, okay, and they're too much into it. So the father passes on, and the son is doing his life. But he was single. He wanted to get married. So he looked for a decent girl from a not rich family. He didn't want a wife that is spoiled, that was raised to be rich and patronizing. He wanted somebody humble. So he went to this honest family that was known for its honesty and so on. And one of the girls, he liked that girl, and he married her. So we're talking about old days. Women spend time in the house, and usually she sent him over to the marketplace to buy the goods and so on. And once he said, let's go out, you know, you're always home, you're always cooking, you're always cleaning, you're always taking care of me, you're always being busy with the house needs, but let's go to the gardens and, you know, walk around and enjoy a little bit, fresh air, see the view. There are places to see. And she said, no, 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 my husband, you know, a woman should be hidden in the house. Only my husband should see me. If we're going to go traveling and seeing places, other men will look at me. I don't want that. I don't want other men to look at me. And she said it with such a pious way that reminded him his father. And he started to be suspicious that all the red lights turn on. So he wanted to see what's going on. One day he told her, I'm going to go out of town for a week or two, so prepare me my clothes and so on, so I'll be able to pack it up and go for my journey. So she prepared him the clothes, and he simply took the suitcase and took off. He didn't leave town. He stayed somewhere in town, and then he waited for the night to fall. And after nightfall, he waited a little bit, and then he went back home, and he found his wife with another man in their bed. So the man ran away. No, the man was, looks like that man was had a lot of guts, and he took a rifle and started to run after the husband, the cheated husband. So he's running on the streets, and he's running for his life. And the same night, somebody stole the crown jewel, and it disappeared. When it was found, it was that night, and the soldiers ran to the streets of town to find the thief and the crown jewel. And they see that man running. Of course, circumstantial evidence, they caught him, and he was sentenced to death. They never found the jewel, but he was sentenced to death, because who will be running so crazily on the street? Only the thief. Okay, so the day had come for the execution. The top bishop of the kingdom comes for him to say his rites and confession, and he says, you know, he tells the priest, I didn't do it. He tells him the story, and the priest says, no, I cannot eat like you. You're already you're the villain. It was already proven, and he was really not listening. On the way to the gallows, they were walking together, and then suddenly the priest stopped, and he said, look, 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 there's a place of ants nest, ant colony. Let's go around so we don't step on the ants, because they are really holy souls, Each one of them is a holy creature of God. The man puts one and one together, and he keeps silence. He comes to the gallows, and the king says, "Do you have a last wish?" And he says, "Yes, my last wish is that you send soldiers to the home of the bishop to find, because the crown jewel is there in the bishop's house." They sent the soldiers. They found the crown jewel over there, and of course, they found it. So the king says, "How do you know? How did you know?" And he says, I didn't know, but when I saw that on one hand, he didn't care about me at all, but he was so pious, not stepping on the ants while he was taking me to the gallows without listening to me. I knew that people who are extra religious, they are really fake. The letter Kuf is that fake. Like a monkey faking it is human. Okay? This is the one of the observations about the letter Kuf. It's kind of, you can see people with that energy of the letter Kuf, that on one hand, they're so humble, they're so poor, they don't need money, they don't need anything. They just want everybody's goodness, and they're just so pious about caring for others, and it's all fake. Deeply inside, they're corrupted to the core. Be careful of people like this. So, let's go back into our Pisces. So, a Pisces can be fake on one hand, which means faking, like being humble. I don't need money. What do you mean you don't need money? You see people of clergy, you don't need money. King Solomon was the wisest man. He had a lot of money. Is that a contradiction? Abraham, the founder of monotheism, had a lot of money. The Torah tells us. Isaac also, Jacob also, Joseph also. Those people knew how to deal with bliss. So, when you know how to deal with bliss, and you know that the major thing about dealing with bliss is we were created to be God's vessels. So being a vessel, there's nothing wrong about it. Being needy, there's nothing wrong about it. Wanting bliss and pleasure, there's nothing wrong about it, unless you use it for others, which means when you use it for others, when the whole desire for bliss and pleasure is for the sake of pleasing, helping, supporting, serving other people, then you become a conduit. Then you have for you Gimel Dalit, Gomel Dalim. Then you have pleasure, oneg. Then you have shefa, bliss. Everything is so full of grace in your life. And then all the positive energy of Jupiter, which is a planet of so much light and so much positivity, is flowing through you, and you become a conduit of all that is good. However, when it's turned around and you fake it and you just dalge, you're poor, you make yourself low. Okay, you're a victim, you're poor, you're the poor clergy, the poor rabbi. I have nothing in the house, I have no money, whatever, I'm just want for everybody but nothing for me. But it's dalge, you don't realize you are here to receive as a vessel of God's light. And receiving pleasure, receiving happiness, and receiving bliss is not a problem. It's not a problem. You were created for that purpose. Only the problem is only when it is only for yourself. Because the light of God is endless. You want to connect to that endless by the law of affinity. You need to vibrate on the same place. Yes, you were created to receive. You were created to want. Do not deny that. Do not fake. Oh, I want nothing. I don't want any honor. Don't honor me. Or don't give me money. And so, you're a human being. Hello? You were created as a machine of desires. You can't ignore that. And you know what happens? when people play that pious, humble, sooner or later the corruption stories will explode. Okay? Sometimes in their lifetime, sometimes after they die. And sometimes nobody will ever know, maybe later on. The point is as follows. We're here to receive God's bliss. The Pisces is the end. We're here to receive all of that light. The miracles of the month of Adar, Purim, the miracles are exactly that. It's an imitation of the miracles of the Exodus. However, the miracle was huge. The whole Jewish nation was saved. But by what? Because they changed their nature from receiving just for themselves alone. They changed that nature to charity, helping, giving gifts to the poor, caring for others, fasting, praying, becoming more benevolent people, being aware to their community, to someone else. The moment that becomes authentic, then the Dalge becomes Gomel Dalim. Then the greatness of the creator of pleasure and bliss, Oneg, Veshefa, can come down to this world, and the whole picture changes without nobody noticing anything special. The king just couldn't sleep that night. After everybody fasted and cared for each other and gave each other presents and food and so on and so forth. And then suddenly the king couldn't sleep that night. And what happened? He just happened to open his book of memoirs. Just on that page at Mordechai, the leader of the Jews, saved his life 10 years earlier. And suddenly he had this thought like, we didn't do anything for Mordechai. You know, somebody saves the king's life. He must have an award, right? We never gave him an award. Oh, and suddenly the king he has this urge to award Mordechai. So, we need the think tank, brainstorming. Who is in the court? Haman is in the court. He comes with a death warrant to Mordechai for the king to sign. Haman, come over here. There is somebody that the king thinks is the most precious person, and the king wants to award him, so everybody will see what should be done. And Haman says, moi? Who does the king think about this way? Only about me. I'm the only one. Okay. So, the humble Haman, suddenly, everything bursts out. His hubris is bursting out. He's blind. He cannot see what's going on. So we should take the king's horse and dress the king's gown and put the king's crown on the top of his head. Give him the king's scepter. Put him on the king's horse, and somebody important should take him around the capital of the empire and announce, so should be done with the person that the king wants to award. And the king said, I know you're brilliant. Go do everything you just said to Mordechai, and don't miss one thing, be careful. So Haman comes to the court to make the king sign a death warrant for Mordechai, and he finds himself the whole day giving him honor of a king. He knows his wife, when he comes back home, his wife is saying, it's over. We missed the opportunity. The miracle happened. How? Nothing visible happened. The water didn't split. The firstborns didn't die. There was no angel of death hitting the firstborns of Shushan. Okay, but what happened? Haman was caught in his scheme, executed, and the whole course of history has been changed. So what is the lesson about this month of Adar? The month of Adar is the month of deep spiritual faith that is coming from humility, and understanding that all the bliss we have, all the pleasure we have, we should have. We were created for that to have, and we do it, which means we allow ourselves to have it because that's how God created us. This is the highest level of true humility. That's Gomel Dalim. However, if you turn it around and you go around, I'm so humble. I don't have money. I give my money to charity. I don't need pleasure. I don't need anything. I'm just like I'm sitting here. I'm so righteous. And that will explode. You become Dal Ge'eh, and then the Shefa, says the Zohar, the bliss becomes Pesha, crime. And then you see how people that behave that way, they become very religious, pious. I'm not saying just religion, it could be anything. But they get empty. And when you get empty, you become prey to addiction to drugs, addiction to alcohol, addiction to dark emotions, to melancholy, to depression, addiction to being a victim. All of that, these are addiction. And then the oneg, the pleasure becomes nega. It becomes malignant. And that's why this month is a very powerful month, and especially this month, when this month is turning into Aries, the whole world is starting a new cycle. The last time the cycle like this started, it was just a few months just before the American Declaration of Independence. We, the people. And we will see through what's going to be in the next few months and years, how democracy, freedom, understanding, wisdom, the ability to perceive democracy or any kind of justice in a different way than before. Whatever was the cycle that we are just finishing these days is over. It was a very glamorous cycle. Democracies came, rose, and became the most powerful political force on this planet. Instead, and replaced the empires that ruled the planet since its beginning almost. Democracies took over, and democracies that aligned together in blissful alliances. However, everybody knows that democracies are not functioning well anymore. It's done. The new kind of democracy, the new kind of freedom, is the dawn of a new freedom is coming, and that's part of the chaos we experience all over the world, and especially among democratic nations. Don't be upset about it. Don't be afraid. Just have faith in your spirituality. Do your spiritual work, and we will see how the world is moving to a new dawn of a new revelation, a new discovery of a better way that freedom can take place on this planet. Thank you, and have a great month.
Thank you, and same